Welcome back to We Should Start a Podcast, the only podcast within a podcast. Each week we'll attempt to create the next hit audio show as we pitch our brightest ideas for pods about anything and everything, but more often than not, pretty much nothing. I am your host, Podmaster and Commander Dino, and joining me as always are my good friends, Podmaster Chief Danders, and Davey Hogan is here too. Bringing up the rear as always. Let's get into it.
We should start a podcast.
It's so like audibly graphic in a weird kind of weird way.
Got a whole spooky month to shoehorn that in.
It's just so long. It's so long. If you didn't pick up on it from that, it is a spooky month, which means we need to give a little spooky intro, don't we?
I guess.
I'd like that, yeah.
Welcome to a very spooky episode of We Should Start a Podcast, where for the month of Scare-tober, we are pitching only our most blood-curdling, spine-chilling, and terror-inducing podcast ideas with the hopes of becoming the final girls of the podcast industry.
Nice.
Welcome to Scare-tober. Welcome back to Scare-tober.
That's very much the fun spooky element that you've been talking about recently. You know, that was like a kitschy cute spooky intro, which is the kind of spooky that I appreciate, to be fair.
Yeah, I like it too. It gives me like a warm feeling on the inside.
Yeah, like drinking a pumpkin spice latte, am I right?
Had one today.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did.
I was being
I'm
ironic.
a PLSL man.
Oh,
I love them.
that's
They
cute.
already have them. It's not even October yet. They already have them.
Oh yeah.
I suppose pumpkin spice is more of an autumn thing as well.
It's a season. Yeah. Do you know what? I tried to like convince myself on the pumpkin. Like I only tried one once, but last year I was like, I'm going to get a pumpkin spice latte, give it a go. I went to my local Starbucks and I went there at 1 minute before they were closing, you know, so all the coffee machines are dirty or whatever. And like from the look of the guy who has made it for me, he'd never drunk a cup of coffee in his life. Like I won't elaborate. And, so it just tasted like absolute dog shit. And I was like, oh, do you know, I was like, is this the fault of the pumpkin?
And if you listened last week, Anders talked about how he thinks horror movies are the equivalent of eating a plate of shit.
It will be a recurring theme when you but yeah, so I don't blame the pumpkin spice, but it was not good, not a good experience.
To be fair, that would be me working in a coffee shop if I was inside there. I don't drink coffee. That's
I could do you a pumpkin spice cup of tea.
yeah, that's pretty much it. It'd just be a regular cup of tea in an orange cup.
I don't drink the normal version of the pumpkin spice latte either. Being a lactose intolerant girly, I do pumpkin spice latte, oat milk, no whip.
Mm-hmm.
No whip.
Unless I'm feeling saucy.
and then you have the whip.
And then I have the barista whip me.
That's 50 cents extra.
And that's why they're like, it's like, man, there's like 5 minutes left in my shift. Do I have to do this? I just have my little red rum ready to go.
Why is it already red? Have you been to many Starbucks on the road there? Like,
it's actually more orange. I've like painted it like a pumpkin. And that guy on the mic who paints his rumpus like a pumpkin in this fall season is El Diablo Dino. Nothing to plug except, of course, spooky season, which we're in. Please, everyone, do your part if you can. There's a lot of less fortunate ghouls out there. No? Anyways.
what were you asking for?
Are you asking us to do something?
Do your part in spooky season.
Dedicate to Halloween charity? Like, what do you mean?
Donate to a Halloween charity. Exactly. Gifts for ghouls or...
I'm trying to come up with
schools for ghouls.
Schools for ghouls.
Schools for ghouls. That's
trying to come up
one.
with a scary, like, alliterative thing for Danders. What's a spooky D word?
We've done Diablo. We've done
Dungeon
Death last
Danders.
time. Dungeon Danders. That just sounds like you're like a
Dungeon
dom.
Dragons. Oh, yeah, okay.
Demon Danders.
Demon Danders. It's too close to Diablo. It's not important. Let's get on with the show. I'm spooky enough for everyone.
That's Danders. That's Danders on the mic. And we also have Davey. I don't know if you have a spooky name. You can reuse the one from last week if you wish.
Oh, Davey Horror Hogan. Nah, not that spooky.
My one for you was Davey Death Becomes Him Hogan.
I like that. There's a little more to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost artistic in a way.
A little bit more of a bite.
Yeah.
I could be Dancer Danders, and I'm just like a Halloween dancer.
Sounds saucy.
What? Is that a thing?
Halloween dancing? Of course. It's very spooky.
I've never heard of it, but
We'll take that.
Certainly you get to dress up as whatever you want when you go to Halloween.
Yeah, so you could be a dancer.
Yeah. Dancer Danders.
I talked with my girlfriend, Violet, last year about going for Halloween as the dirty dancing duo, like Patrick Swayze and whatever their name
But you would just dress normally, right? Like
yeah, pretty much.
Your leather jacket and your slick hair.
I was training for months because my idea was for the entire night. I would just carry her above my head. Do you have any ideas for this year for your Halloween costumes? Do you even do it? I know, Danders, you probably don't. You big fucking Halloween grump.
If I had a party to go to, I would. Sad face.
So it's just going to be us three dressed up like fully in costumes doing a really sad, lonely podcast.
I don't know, man. I haven't.
We all came as Patrick Swayze.
That would be really fun. Like if we were all going to the same party doing Patrick Swayze from different movies. You could
I'd be the one from
Patrick
Ghost.
Swayze. From Ghost, exactly. I could be Dirty Dancing. Dave, you could be Roadhouse Swayze.
Ooh, that would be nice. Although I'd play the new. What's the bad guy in it? McGregor plays him in the new Roadhouse. Knox.
Yeah.
I'd surely just play.
Dave comes as Indiana Jones. That's Harrison Ford, Dave.
Oh, very good. But we're not really here to talk about our Halloween costumes, are we? We're trying to come up with a hit podcast idea. We're trying to go number one on the charts, but we don't have the perfect pod idea. So I suppose this here podcast isn't really even a podcast, is it? It's like a placeholder where we're coming up with our hit podcast idea. And until we find that golden idea, we'll continue to pitch and pod. Is that about right?
Yeah, it's a pre-pod pod.
It's a pre-pod.
Golden idea makes us the golden goose. We will eventually lay the golden egg, which will be the golden idea that will get us gold, actual real gold. That's what we want to do. We don't need money. We just need gold. So.
And this month we're kicking around very spooky ideas.
Only spooky ideas, which reminds me to introduce everyone today to our Scare Master of the Week, which is, of course, me, El Diablo Dino. And to remind everyone how this works, I will be pitching my terrifying new podcast idea and taking us through a complete trial episode, following the podcast within a podcast, colloquially known as a podception. We will collectively critique my show based on a classic podcast rating system. But the devil is very much in the details. So before I pitch, I am legally obligated to remind all the podgoblins out there that WSSAP never do any research as to whether these podcast ideas exist in the real world. So by accessing the content of this podcast, including the information presented, opinions expressed, and creative elements, you are hereby forfeiting rights to any intellectual property you may have already held in relation to your podcast. And there is not much you can do about it.
I wonder, does that have any legal precedent when you just make a disclaimer? Like, if you just say what you think is appropriate, does that count? Like, how does the law work? Anyway,
I don't know. Don't know how the law works. That's called a bit, Danders. It's called a joke. Learn about it.
Okay.
With that being said, I would love if anyone took one of the ideas we had on this podcast and made it a podcast.
And made millions.
And then cut us a little piece of pie.
Somehow I doubt we'll get any of
Pumpkin
that
pie.
Pumpkin pie, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Seeing as it's spooky season. And with that in mind, I will now introduce you to my latest podcast. My latest spooky, terrifying, bone-chilling podcast. And that podcast is titled Freak of the Week. What do you think Freak of the Week is about, boys?
Maybe like a very freaky but good-looking celebrity on picking your favorite spooky
I could.
celebrity that's looking very tasty. Do you know, freak but
Oh, like
maybe
a
like
freak.
let's say Doja Cat is on the red carpet dressed as an actual cat, and
Mm.
it's kind of spooky, but she's also, I don't know, kind of hot.
But have you noticed there's like a trend this year, especially, I don't know so much for women, but for guys, where people are thinking that unconventionally attractive guys are the hottest guys of the year. This year, it's like rat men, guys who look like rats,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's
I've heard
like
that.
the
Yeah.
Jeremy Allen Whites, it's Barry Keoghan, it's I don't know.
Your man from the
name some
Bear.
other.
What's his name?
Jeremy Allen White.
Yeah, him.
Yeah, there's a few other guys.
Yeah.
I'm standing firmly behind my boy Glenn Powell as hottest man of the year.
You think?
I love Glenn Powell. Yeah, what a legend. Oh,
Not Fred Powell.
Fred Powell.
Sorry, that's
he was GQ's man of the year last year. So it's not that Danders. We're not talking about hot celebs. Although I wish we were. I wish we had a Powell cast.
That would be cool, I guess. But if we were talking about celebrities, the freak of the week would surely be Diddy, the freakiest celebrity out there.
Oh, he is.
And he is currently the freak of the week with all the shit that's going on.
He is. Yeah, I don't even want to talk about him.
Let's
right
not
now.
go there.
Let's not go there. So it's not about
Tiptoe
Diddy.
around
So the
this and
podcast.
move on.
Talking about Diddy has me like.
It just goes on. Oh, it's just so funny.
Have you already played that this episode? Like, it just
Yes.
Yeah.
so,
I believe it was the first thing I played after the theme song.
it all just bleeds together, doesn't it?
Yeah. You're just like, oh my god!
I guess I am.
Oh.
I guess I am.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not about Diddy. So I'm guessing, is it something to do with like a freak show type thing, where we have the bearded lady and the
That's you.
Yeah, me.
Hey, got him.
That's my guess anyway. Something around the freak shows.
That's it. You know, it's closer to the idea. It's closer. It's not quite there yet. But that's why we have this show, for me to explain what my podcast is and to run an episode. So this week we are diving into the world of Freak of the Week. Welcome, everyone, to Freak of the Week, the podcast about history's most infamous ghouls, goblins, ghost creatures, and general spookmongers. Each week, we take a deep dive into the depraved and wax on the wicked ways of our grisly Freak of the Week. This week, we are talking about a creature hailing from the darkest depths of the Atlantic Ocean, a creature that only needed 2 notes to strike fear into even the most storm-hardened seaman. But his cruel complexity has unveiled a monster a far cry from your average 2-note freak. The Leviathan of the Northeast, the beast of Amity Beach. Today, we are talking Jaws. Oh shit, did I hit is that the wrong one?
Ooh.
nice.
Nice edit, Dino.
Super jealous of your production ability, I'll be honest.
Thank you.
That was good.
I was super proud of that one. But that is not the main point of the podcast. The point is this. The year is 1974. As sunsoakers and party patriots alike flock to the golden shores of Amity Beach, it's shaping up to be another groovy 4th of July. Nothing could possibly damper the palpable excitement in the hot summer air. Nothing except maybe. Dun, 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 a shark. In swims our boy, the certified freak of the week, the shark from Jaws, which, contrary to popular belief, is not actually called Jaws. Jaws is the name of the movie. The shark is actually called Bruce. That's well, kind of a joke, kind of not. It was in reference to Steven Spielberg's lawyer, Bruce something, and everyone on the cast called the shark Bruce, but it was never explicitly said that that's the official name of the shark. But fin fanatics across the globe now refer to the shark as
Isn't
Bruce.
the big shark is it Shark?
Finding
not
Nemo.
Shark Tale, Finding Nemo.
Finding
called,
Nemo, it's named Bruce, yeah.
Yeah, it's
So that must
probably a
be
nod to
reference.
that. It's probably a nod.
I thought that was interesting. No, it is. He's named after the Bruce of the Jaws franchise.
Yeah.
Friendly chap.
So Bruce is our freak of the week. I don't know if he is exactly a great white shark because he's much bigger than one, but he's something adjacent to a great white. He probably is meant to be. He's 25 feet long and weighs in at a whopping 4.9 tons.
Jesus Christ.
In the original movie, he only has quite a modest kill count of 5 humans and 1 dog, R.I.P. Pippet. And spoiler alert again, for all these spooky podcasts that we're doing, there's lots of spoiler alerts. He met his demise at the hands of Chief Martin Brody, who blows him up by shooting a gas canister in his mouth. He's become one of horror's most recognizable antagonists. I think we can all agree. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie.
I have seen the movie, but I'm sure there's sequels. So do they just conjure up other mega massive sharks and say that this is just
Exactly
right?
Yeah,
That's a shame.
Yeah.
How
So
many
it's
sequels
not
were
the
there?
same
How
shark.
many-
I don't know. I think the original was the only one directed by Steven Spielberg.
Oh, that's very interesting. Also, I mean, what's the I'm just delving far too much into the detail, but I've just been like, so the idea is that there's this race of like enormous, aggressive, murderous sharks that were just hidden from us until now, and
No, I think just one. I think he's just a freak.
no, but then there's the sequels. Is the point.
Oh, well then, I mean, yeah, the sequels kind of ruin it. I don't know if it's the same as like last week we talked about Halloween and how some major fans don't consider some of the sequels as part of the canon story.
They do call him a great white in script, but I guess that could be before they've seen him properly or whatever. But
Yeah.
that's interesting.
So that's our freak. And as we continue on through this episode of Freak in the Week, I must remind you that we are talking mainly about the freak himself. So we can talk about the movie, but it's more about our boy Bruce. Do I have any fun facts about Bruce?
I don't know.
I immediately start talking about the film, but it was based off a book. But in the first film, despite being the main antagonist, he only has 4 minutes of screen time in the entire movie.
I thought you were going to say he only has 4 lines.
I'm a shark.
4 minutes. Wow. Yeah, I guess that's right. It's a lot of scene setting and sort of
Tension building.
General eeriness.
What you don't see maybe is scarier, but actually that wasn't the original intention. They had a lot of mechanical failures because they never tested the animatronic shark in salt water.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah, the movie went over budget as well by like 5 million, because of a delay in like shit going wrong and the actual shooting time being stretched out from whatever it was intended on being to months later or weeks later even.
But what about Bruce?
What about Bruce? Oh, sorry. Well, he had to work some extra fucking hours, obviously. So he wasn't getting home anytime soon.
The extra 5 million budget all went to Bruce, like for having to wait around. He's like, I'm a busy guy, man. I got a lot of shark movies. I got the Meg coming up, the Meg 2.
And we will talk about that later. We will. Trust me, we'll get to it. The really funny story about the animatronic Bruce. They invited, like, Steven Spielberg invited lots of famous movie people to come on set to see what they were doing. And what's his name? George Lucas came on set and he jokingly put his head into Bruce's mouth and Steven Spielberg closed the mouth on his head and he got stuck.
God, there's got to be a great reference in there somewhere. I don't know, George Lucas. There's got to be a great Star Wars reference in there. Anyway.
And then Bruce was like, "That's mine." No, I don't want to steal any Doughboys IP with Unkar plot. So we will move swiftly on to our first segment, and that first segment is called "Everybody Knows I'm a Motherfucking Monster." In this segment, we will take turns discussing our own demons' darkest secrets and reveal the worst things we've ever done. No, I'm only joking. We're not doing that.
I have not prepared.
We are not doing that. Inspired by Jay-Z's verse on Kanye's Monster from Dark Twisted Fantasy, where he spends a very large chunk of his verse basically just listing monsters.
I know loads of monsters.
Yeah, there's a funny, like, not supercut, a funny edit where it just edits Jay-Z saying his whole verse is just listing monsters. Anyways, in this segment, we will discuss our favorite pop culture references to our great white villain. Does our finned freak show still have the culture locked firmly in his jaws, or has he sunken into the depths of obscurity? Suppose I will start with this one, unless you guys want to jump in.
Dealer's choice. You take it away.
Feel free.
My favorite pop culture reference from Jaws isn't a specific thing, but it's one line from the movie that lives on forever, and that is, "You're gonna need a bigger boat."
Mm-hmm.
I know that was probably Dander's reference. I can see his face. I can switch if you want to take it.
That or Dum. So you've covered them both already.
Yeah.
I should have rewatched the movie.
You can talk about the music. "You're gonna need a bigger boat" is obviously an iconic line.
Popularly misquoted. People say, "I think we're going to need a bigger boat." It's just, "You're going to need a bigger boat."
Yeah. Oh, just so good. It's so simple, does exactly what it's meant to do. Martin Brody standing out on the deck. We see the shark for the first time, and he stumbles backwards into the cabin of the ship, cigarette in mouth, puffs of smoke going out. He looks pale as a ghost. Usually he's golden brown, and he says those famous lines, which actually were ad-libbed.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
That wasn't in the script.
I think I've
Interesting.
heard that before.
Yeah. I don't know if this part is true, but I've heard before that in the script, the line was actually, "That's a big shark." I don't know if that part's true. But what is true is that started from, the production was quite a frugal production. They didn't have a lot of money to spend, and they had like a really, really shitty small boat where they were carrying all their production equipment. So it became a joke on set. Every time something went wrong, someone would say, "You're going to need a bigger boat." And is it Roy Schneider plays Martin Brody? I think that's his name. He was trying to like put it into various parts of the movie, and he did it in this one, and this one stuck.
That's brilliant.
And ever since, it's just like taken off. It's been used in everything from Sharknado, they referenced it, to Pizza Hut commercials, to I think like an Audi commercial. Various movies have referenced it.
It's
Lots
certainly
of
the most
songs have
iconic
referenced it.
line from the film, isn't it? 100%. It's like
From the film,
it's
yeah.
totally stood out, like you say. It's a culture reference in and of itself. People will say it without even sometimes realizing where it comes from. You know what I mean?
It's up there with it's up there as those iconic lines like "I'll be back" and
Yes.
what was it? "Say hello to my little friend." You know, it's up there as those like you say those words in that
the line
order
of the film.
You are automatically referencing that specific movie, so it is pretty iconic.
For sure.
Good pick, Dino.
So the American Film Institute has a list of the 100 greatest movie quotes from the past 100 years, and this ranks number 35. I actually thought it would be higher, to be honest, but that is still a good rating.
What's number one?
I actually don't know. Didn't look that up. Sorry. Oops.
Okay, so what's number two?
What do you want from me? We have a bad podcast. So that's my pick. Let's go Danders. So just so Dave doesn't take yours, Danders, you look panicked. We're gonna need a bigger podcast.
Heyo. Well, I'm taking that reference you had earlier, Dino, which is the iconic soundtrack or score or whatever you want to call it. 2 notes to strike fear into the heart of every living human on the planet and the dead ones, to be fair. But John Williams, I just googled, which is an absolute masterclass in how to build tension with minimalism, and as iconic as that line, if not more so, because I mean, it brings you to the shark. Do you know what I mean? As in, like, it automatically is striking that tone of eeriness and tension building. Like, you can use it in those scenes. Like, it's one of those other things that's transcended the movie. You know what I mean? Like, when you're trying to build tension, you can go da-dum, or when you're implying that something scary is going to come out and eat the hell out of you. You know what I mean? Fair play, John. Do you know what? I think John woke up that morning, didn't even have a cup of coffee, banged out 2 notes on the piano and said, "Pay me my money in cash." And I'll bet they did.
He woke up in the morning and said to his wife, "I'm going to eat the hell out of here."
I think he got an Oscar for it. Did they get an Oscar for the soundtrack?
Pardon?
Sorry, I wasn't even listening to your joke as I was looking at my Wikipedia page of John Williams. Did he get an Oscar for the soundtrack for that? The soundtrack was
Probably. I
particularly
think.
notable.
I mean, that's one of the most famous scores of all time.
Yeah,
and
right.
Was integral to the success of the movie.
Yeah.
Got the Academy Award for Best Music in 1976.
Oh, it's just so good.
Yowza.
Yeah.
I don't think any other freak out there, maybe besides Michael Myers, as we discussed last week, has quite as iconic theme music.
Yeah, that's true.
I can't even. Sorry, this is off topic, but can you hum the Halloween one for me? I can't think of it.
Oh, fuck. Now you're putting me on the spot. That's it.
It's like it's a synth.
Oh, yeah. I'm with you.
And
I'm with you.
it was something I can't remember what it was. I read it. It was like how he actually composed it. He composed it in this way. It's not normal. I don't know. Dino probably
Right.
knows far more about this than I do.
It's very
this song isn't
strange.
normal. Hey, wait a minute. This song is mentally irregular. That was a Rocky reference. Dave, we'll move along.
Yeah,
in the
let's
interest
do
of
that.
time.
Sorry.
What's your pop culture reference?
So I wanted to go with a lyric, rap lyrics of some sort. Do you know? So, well, hip hop. It's R&B technically. It's a Frank Ocean song called "Provider." You're probably more familiar with it than I am. The line is, "Watch friends GoPro through fisheye lens, drowning off clear. I just saw Jaws diving under the influence." Now it's like obviously it's not a very strong connection to the movie or the character, but they do use Jaws in a way, which is interesting. He's talking about, from what I can gather from this, he's talking about friends of his drowning off clear, so like succumbing to alcohol abuse. Clear being vodka, gin, whatever.
It seems to me he's referencing Jaws from James Bond, because we all know that the shark is called Bruce.
Yeah, I know. Or maybe he's talking about the entire production, the movie itself, drink driving. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Diving under it. So yeah, I how I interpret it is he's seen friends of his losing themselves to alcoholism, and to see people around him who are strong figures in his eyes diving under the influence, to kind of like, you know, being lesser because they're succumbing to that alcohol abuse.
Wait,
or something
was
like
was Bruce on drugs the whole time filming?
that. Hollywood, baby.
I don't remember any of that.
He's washed up now. A little pun for you there.
You need to expand your soundboard. You got to get a little splash in there, huh?
So yeah, I kind of not as strong a link to Jaws as your guys' examples, but yeah.
At least you came with your own. I had to steal Dino's.
I like it, Dave.
Yeah.
You really brought the tone down with alcoholism there, and watching your friends succumb to addiction.
I had a
But
second
we do
one.
like it.
I had a second.
I have
one.
a second one too.
Yes, go on.
Let's
Go.
quickly do our runners up. My honorable mentions were the Jaws theme music, and then also Quint's monologue in the cabin where he's talking about, you know, the thing about a shark. It's got lifeless eyes, black eyes like a doll's eyes.
Yeah. my backup was also, so I did the theme music. My backup was the one that you actually did, Dino, which remind me was You're Gonna Need a Bigger Boat. But then I rewatched that scene, and when he's like throwing the chum into the ocean, the captain guy comes down and goes, "Stop playing with yourself, Hooper." So that's my backup.
I like that. My one is Danders would probably like this a little more than Dino will. In Eminem's song "Rabbit Run," he says, "I'm an MC's worst dream. I make 'em tense. They hate me. See me shake like a Changling fence. By the looks of 'em, you would swear the Jaws was coming. By the screams of 'em, you would swear I'm sawing something." So it's like he uses Jaws loosely in this. And what's interesting is, I don't know if he particularly meant it as such, but fans have made that link between him and Jaws, because Jaws was supposedly a great white shark, and he has been described as the great white hope in hip hop. He probably sees himself as the great white hope in a predominantly African American dominated field, you know. So
better tiptoe around this. The great white hope. I mean, like...
yeah, it was just one of those abstract ones. And maybe he meant it. If he did, it's yet another genius of Eminem's.
I don't know, man.
That
Like,
was an interesting one.
He takes so much.
Now on to the next segment.
I
And
knew
the next
you would
segment.
appreciate that.
Moving on from the Great White Hope, Davy Hogan, into the next segment, which is a short segment called "We Need to Talk About Frankenstein." Disclaimer: we do not condone the use of the word freak to describe anyone or anything, even blood-hungry sharks. To avoid being cancelled, this is our short conscious segment, which is inspired by the harrowing book/movie We Need to Talk About Kevin, about a mother struggling to come to terms with her psychopathic son and the horrors he has committed. Here we will discuss why the freak in question might have become so freakish, how we as a society might have failed them, and what more we could have done. Guys, any thoughts?
Was there any indication in the movie? And I watched it years ago in full, and recently I watched like a synopsis just to brush up for this. Was there any indication in the movie whatsoever that triggered his murderous ways?
No
He
indication.
just starts.
But we can make some assumptions.
There's a little kid paddling, and he just looks so good. I think you know what I mean. So,
Okay, keep your personal opinions to yourself.
I mean to eat.
What was the first thing he ate? Was it the swimmer or was it the dog?
It was the
dog,
swimmer, I
wasn't it?
think.
Oh, right,
Was it the dog? I
Get
thought
the
it was
dog,
just
get the dog.
That's
He does a lot of eating anyway. But yeah, that was my same thing with I brought up American Psycho last week, and like that's one of the great features of the film is that you're like he's so messy as a serial killer that like surely he's not getting away with it, and then in the end you're not sure it's happening, and it's kind of the same here. He just like starts all of a sudden being this enormous shark, eating everything, eating everyone in the ocean, whereas like he's got to that size without being noticed for eating a load of people. I guess he was in the middle of the ocean eating kelp or something. Right?
It could have been like just a mental break after years of like, I don't know, suffering, bullying
Being
at the hands
bullied.
of his fellow sharks.
Yeah.
Because he's at the end of the day, he is a giant freak show.
He's a freak,
you know.
Yeah.
And it's say for example, if he was a human, like at least maybe he would have had the opportunity to play in the NBA. But like as a shark, what does being a giant freak show really have to offer you?
I guess you get to eat the bigger things. But no, you're right. He probably got bullied. This actually kind of leads into my point. So I've given this a bit of thought. And I was like, originally, look, maybe he's lonely, he needs a family. I was like, no. Sharks, they famously hunt in isolation, whether big or small. I've realized now what he needed was a foil. Like you think about these great films where Godzilla versus Kong, you know, they need that other enormous force to like keep them honest, you know, where they're just embroiled in this constant conflict and they're always trying to get each other. So I thought about it, and originally I was like giant squid, and I was like, no, that's not a contest. Shark wins every time. And then I'm like, maybe they're kind of from different terrains. So I'm going giant eagle versus Bruce. And like, you know, you got air, you got sea, and they're always out to get each other, but they keep each other focused. They keep each other on their toes. And that's all any of us need. So I feel like that's where like blowing them up, Trey harsh.
I had that point as well. Like, was that punishment too harsh? I mean, he was just doing what sharks sometimes do.
Yeah. Actually, they don't eat humans.
Yes, and that's another point. Like how Jaws has affected, or Bruce has affected society in a huge way since. You know, it's affected other sharks. Apparently, after the movie was released, there was a huge fervor around sharks. Number of shark killings went up. It took decades to get people to be comfortable going back in the water bring down the stigma of what Bruce did, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, people have said that who were like, I've talked to people who watched the movie when it came out at the time, and they said that the idea of going back in the water was just terrifying. You know, it really, it was a big icon of a movie that everyone, you know, shook the world. And like you say, the perception of sharks since then has completely gone, totally shaped by that movie, you know, and now everyone's terrified of them. Whereas I hear that more people get killed in a year by vending machines falling on top of them than by sharks. Every single year.
That would be a good horror movie.
Yeah. Oh no, it's not. I only want Snickers.
Claws.
So what's interesting about that point, Danders, is between 1958 and 2016, there's only been 439 fatal injuries from shark-related attacks. Between 2001 and 2010, an average of 4.3 people per year died from shark attacks.
They don't even attack, I don't know what the word is, but like unprovoked. Do you know what I mean? Like apparently like they just don't have any interest in humans. Like they're just kind of incidental when when they get killed by sharks. They're not out there hunting like Bruce. Do you know what I mean?
They mistake humans for their normal prey.
Yeah,
which is why they say if you're in the water with sharks, be vertical and stand your ground, look at them in the eyes, and they won't see you as something that they normally eat, and they'll basically just leave you alone, essentially. But Bruce did not do that, and at the end of the day, I don't think we as humans can be blamed. Is the shark community ever really held accountable?
We should hope so.
We should. Is that what you're?
They should hold themselves accountable.
They should have a trial.
Yeah, exactly, right.
But it's not our responsibility.
No, I don't think it was our responsibility to take his execution into our hands.
To play God, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he was bigger than all the other sharks, so they didn't really have much of a choice, eh?
And he was out there executing others. I mean, it was one man and his gun and a bomb that made that call.
Do you think he was killing other sharks too?
Surely.
That's why he's so big, eating all these other sharks.
Right? He's not just out here killing humans, just humans. He has to be killing other things. He's obviously eating fish, but he's surely eating sharks. But because he's so big, regular sized sharks are probably just like fish to him, Just more meaty.
I have a little nugget that's gonna shock you guys, but I don't find his size to be that shocking.
Okay, Danders is overcompensating for something.
Used to big sharks. No, it's like when I went to Times Square.
25 feet, that's nothing.
Like when I went to Times Square, and you used to seeing these towering pictures, but they're all shot from a down angle. And maybe I just need to see the film again, but maybe it's because the Meg has come out, but I didn't see that either. But I have seen Jaws, to be fair. But he just seemed like maybe that's because I saw that before I've ever seen a real great white. That's just how big sharks are to me. Hot take.
That is a very hot take. And it's a good take to end on. That's what you'll be remembered for. So yeah, I think we had some good talking points there. At the end of the day, it was a horrible tragedy, but I don't think there was much we could have done, to be honest.
Yeah, apart from not shoot the gas canister in his mouth, I guess. But then he would have kept killing things.
Yeah, exactly. It had to be done. Had to be. He had the taste as well. You see, he had the taste for human flesh. That's the problem.
We could do what the Vancouver justice system does, and when people murder people, they get a slap on the wrist, and then they're released back out into the society within 2 or 3 days.
Move them to merit.
Anyways, moving on to our next segment, which is called Monster Mash: The Ultimate Freak Showdown. Who is the undisputed meanest, most fiendish freak at the peak? All freaks enter the arena, but only one can be crowned the coldest killer in the genre. In this segment, I will list villains from other horror movies, books, myths, stories, and folklore. We will decide if our freak of the week wins or loses in a fight to the death. Does that sound simple enough, guys?
So these people are fighting Jaws.
Yeah.
It's a freak melee.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Melee.
Oh, what was that? He's getting excited by the freak melee.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, the first competitor in this competition against the shark from Jaws is Michael Myers. Very familiar to us. We talked about him quite recently.
Versus Jaws? Versus Bruce? I think it depends on the terrain.
He doesn't look like a good swimmer. Michael Myers.
We're going to say all of these happen basically in the water, because outside the water, he can't survive.
No, I know, exactly. So we are looking at Michael Myers' swimming ability, which doesn't look like much. He looks very stiff, to be fair. He doesn't look like a man that could, maneuver in the water.
He also sneaks up on people, as in he doesn't back himself in a brute force contest. I guess Jaws sneaks up a little bit as well, but Mike Myers is there hiding in sheets and then strangling people with phone wires and stuff. He's trying to get up close until he can definitely do it. Whereas Bruce don't really need none of that. You know what I mean?
Well, you could argue that they both, sneak attack is their main attack, both of them, to be fair.
Yeah. But Bruce, I mean, if you're in the water, you can't swim faster than him. You can't beat him with brute force or a knife so. That's
true. But you see, you're taking away Jaws' main ability, because anytime he tries to sneak up on Michael Myers in the water, he's just gonna hear him going dana. So it's just going to give it away.
But then Jaws can hear the
That's true. I think you're right, Anders. I think Jaws. I got
to back Bruce for this one.
I think he takes him. But then, Michael Myers, we've seen, is kind of almost invincible. Can he actually be killed? we've seen Michael Myers in numerous iterations of the movie get stabbed, shot,
but he's
torn
never
to
been
shit.
like, what, has he been torn to shit? So this is my
Yeah,
question.
I don't think he's been like eviscerated
That's
by
my
a
thing.
shark in the
If
movies.
he,
Maybe-
like-
I haven't seen all of them. I might be wrong.
You've ruined the plot of Halloween 12.
Season of the Shark.
But like, that's really exactly what you said. Like, he basically gets put through a blender if he's getting eaten by a shark. You know, is he going to survive that, being swallowed and digested?
Probably not.
Who knows?
Probably
Who
not.
knows?
Okay, so we're gonna say Michael Myers is absolutely toast.
Dead.
And moving on to number 2, and that is the xenomorphs from Alien.
Versus Bruce again?
That's the whole point of this.
I'm like, explain melee. No, to be honest, I'm gonna have to go for the xenomorphs this time. They're
I think so,
super
too.
high tech. They're they're adaptable to many terrains. In subsequent Alien universe references, they've been kind of heralded as creators of humanity inadvertently, and all of this. Like they're intense.
Not so
guys.
much the aliens. Those are the architects who inadvertently created the aliens.
Exactly. So that's why I say
Xenomorphs.
inadvertently. Oh, wait. The architects also created the aliens. Is that right? The
And
xenomorphs?
also humans, essentially.
Oh, right. But I thought the architects worshipped the xenomorphs. I've only been seeing this through references
No.
anyway.
It was
I know that they're worshipped by the humans. the architects.
essentially
Well, not really.
a bioweapon that they created to destroy planets, but it wasn't originally alien. It's a whole complicated
whole
plot
thing.
point
It's a whole
where
thing.
like an AI being from one of the previous ships from Earth gets obsessed with creating the perfect like being and uses the bioweapon material to create this ultimate killing machine, which is
Right.
Alien.
Right. Still, I think that they could take Bruce. They're wow.
All that being said, I think they could take Bruce too. He's just a big
Yeah.
fish. And we all know what Qui-Gon Jinn says.
There's always a bigger fish.
What do you think, Dave? Are you on the same page?
Yeah, I think so, man. You're dealing with two beings that can survive underwater. I mean, in direct comparison to the last guy, Michael Myers, I feel like the xenomorphs well capable of combat underwater, and they're just fucking scary as shit. And the plus they're much smarter. They have limbs,
Mhm.
you know, which is huge, really, in any kind of combat. So yeah, I think the xenomorphs take that all day.
That's a good take. I was going to do Predator next, but we all know in Alien versus Predator that in a one-on-one battle, a Predator can destroy an alien, so we won't even go there if alien can destroy our boy Bruce. So next, I don't know if you guys have seen this movie, but Bruce, the shark from Jaws, against the Babadook.
Oh, but see, the Babadook is like it's not like a fucking physical being.
No,
is it? It's more
basically
of a spirit.
the take. Well, I think this is my interpretation of the movie, that in the end, the Babadook was just a representation of her depression and mental illness. So,
Yeah.
do we think that Bruce could beat mental illness and depression?
I don't know, man. He went on a fucking rampage.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, and which ultimately led to his demise. So in that,
Yeah.
I think that proves that he couldn't overcome depression from his early childhood days of being bullied. You know, like, well, he snapped, right? We've decided this now, as in we're the resident experts in the field by now.
Mhm.
We've talked about it so much, you know.
Well, we decided as a race that the best thing for mental health is explosives, and it definitely worked. Clearly.
I haven't seen the Babadook. Is that what happened? No, I'm joking.
she blows her up. Gas canister in the mouth of the Babadook. Okay, yeah. So I agree with you guys. I don't think Bruce could overcome the Babadook, which is a representation of his own depression and mental illness, which moves us on to the next battle, which is Bruce versus the aliens from Signs. Have we all seen Signs?
No, I'm afraid not.
No.
Oh, this was a trick question, anyways. In the end of Signs, the aliens die because they realize that they are, I don't know what the word for it is, but water essentially kills them.
Right.
So, there it is.
I'll give you one.
Interesting.
Versus the Gremlins. Isn't
I
that
have
what-
Gremlins on my list here too.
That's so funny.
We'll do one more, and then I'll read the rest of my list for you. Um, okay. Jaws versus we've done Michael Myers. What about Mike Myers? Also, no.
But he could adapt. He could be Cat in the Hat. He could be Grinch. Oh,
Yeah.
was he all of them?
He could
No,
be the
Jim
master
Carrey
of
was-
disguise. Okay, this is a pretty good one actually. Have you seen Anaconda? Jaws versus Anaconda, a massive anaconda.
Is that a film? Jaws the Anaconda?
No, but Anaconda is a horror movie.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of it. I haven't seen it, but that's a good battle. Like that's actually a good pairing. I don't know. Maybe I give it to the Anaconda. He's got the constriction thing as well as the big jaws.
Mhm.
But I struggle with that one actually.
Let me help out. So the Jaws or Bruce is supposed to be what, 25 foot long? The Anaconda is supposed to be around 40 foot.
Okay.
So
It's not that
there's
much
your
bigger,
size
actually, though.
reference.
Not that much bigger, and he's much thinner.
But like nearly double in size, to be
Can we
fair.
talk about their terrain difference? I feel like if they're in freshwater, if they're in seawater in the ocean,
Are they in freshwater or seawater?
And I feel that like anacondas, their main weapon is constriction,
Mhm.
whereas Jaws has these huge gnashers, and my anaconda don't.
my anaconda don't.
No reaction. That's okay.
But surely that first or that main form of attack is actually pretty powerful against a shark.
I
Yeah,
think it's quite slippery though. I mean, like, how are you
if,
gonna?
if you can get him, I think if he gets some purchase on him, then Bruce is done. But it's whoever gets there first, and I think
How are you going
that,
to wrap
like-
yourself around him while he's swimming like crazy? Do you know, like it's a human can't swim as well. They're kind of thrashing in one place, whereas like Jaws is quick in a straight line. How are you going to wrap yourself around him quickly while he's? You need to get stuck first. I'm going to give it to Bruce, man. I'm going to give it to Bruce.
I think Bruce takes it as well. That his form of attack, which is essentially just bite. All he needs is one bite on the anaconda. It doesn't matter where on the body it is. Doesn't matter how long the anaconda is. One bite, and
Done.
that'll do serious damage. Yeah, done for sure.
Yeah,
Bruce
I think
takes
so
that.
as well. Bruce takes it, and we'll just fly through some last ones that I had on my list. We'll just do a quick yes or no, and then maybe a tiny reasoning behind. We have Dracula.
Dr. Acula loses against Bruce every day.
I think Dracula's very smart, though. He could probably come up with some way of killing him, like luring him somewhere, and I don't know. And don't vampires have like super strength and shit too? I don't know if Dracula did, but maybe some iterations of Dracula did. My favorite iteration of Dracula was Jeff Goldblum in this Goosebumps game. I don't know if you ever played that.
No.
Anyways, I think Dracula takes it. I think he would use his smarts to take him down.
I think. How do they fare out in water? Vampires in
Yeah.
general.
Well, I mean, I think that just varies on the vampire.
Yeah.
In the Twilight series, they they don't need to breathe and they can swim across oceans, and they're pretty lethal in the water. So, but I got to give it to
Quick
Bruce.
fire.
Yeah, I got to give it to Bruce.
Dave.
Bruce, I think, as well.
Okay, Bruce is doing well. Okay, next, Jigsaw. I'm giving it to Bruce.
I'm giving it to Bruce.
Bruce all day, yeah. Jigsaw was actually quite a frail man. He just had a really conniving mind. There wasn't really anything physically spectacular about Jigsaw. Just a prick. He was just a prick.
He's very mid.
Like the shark is gonna wake up in like some trap. I don't know how that would work. Apparently, I don't know if this is true, but they say that if sharks stop moving, they die. So they even like sleep moving.
They die?
Is it to do with breathing?
It's something to do with breathing. It's
Or
how
their
they
cold
take
blood?
take an
Oh,
oxygen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, we're giving that one to Bruce. Gremlins, I think we can establish that Bruce takes it because no, if you get the gremlins
How many
wet,
gremlins?
they don't
What's
die.
the
They
point?
just get like
Angry.
They actually get bigger and angrier.
I
if
think
anything.
gremlins might.
If he
take
swallowed
it.
Gremlin's whole, then they could kind of tear out of him. But if he just like gnashes them up while he's
There's a lot
ingesting
of gremlins. Actually, I'm going to give it to gremlins in this one.
It depends
How
how many
many
gremlins.
gremlins? No one's
Let's
answering my question.
500 gremlins.
Bruce.
Fuck it, 500 gremlins.
Angry gremlins. They do get angrier. They do get angrier when they get wet. But I'm sure if you completely like submerge them in water, they melt, or don't melt, but they like burn.
I don't know.
What I mean?
I actually haven't seen. I don't know if I've ever seen gremlins. So let's.
Oh, what? Anyway,
I'm saying gremlins take it. Dave thinks
Okay.
Bruce takes the gremlins.
I'll give it to gremlins for the crack. If there's 500 of them.
And then we're running out of time here in this this section of the record. So I'm going to stick these two together so they can work as a team. We have Slappy from Goosebumps and Patrick Bateman.
Slappy, that doll.
Yeah, the ventriloquist dummy. Yeah.
I'm
Jesus.
giving it to Bruce, man. If
Two of them?
If they're in the
No
they're in
way.
the water, then chainsaws don't
okay.
work underwater. I'm giving them both to Bruce.
Fine. Yeah. That's a tough one. I'll give it to Bruce as well, I think. And I mean, Slappy, I suppose he doesn't actually, in Goosebumps, doesn't really kill anyone. He just he turns people into dummies. He could turn the shark into a dummy. I'm giving it to Slappy and Patrick.
Okay, with that logic, I suppose it does make sense. Yeah. If he can just turn him into a dummy.
What a fucking battle. I think
our
overall-
listeners are riveted now. Stuck to the edge of their seat. Like, what if the gremlin gets totally submerged?
And you will never know because we are moving on to our next segment. But before we do that, we're going to take a short break. We are back to Freak of the Week, already in progress. And we are here for our final segment, which is the final scare score. We are now going to rate our Freak of the Week on the classic scare score scale of 1 to 5 screams. So what do we think Bruce from Jaws gets on the scare score? I'm going to give Bruce a good rating. I think he's a classic horror villain. He's big, he's mean. He doesn't have a lot of kills, but he has some great scenes. He builds up tension in a spooky way. This is a very bad description, but I think Jaws gets a 4.5 on the scream score, or the scare score. That's 4.5 screams.
I think Bruce is a 5 scream freak, man. I know I kind of
5 scream freak.
I know I kind of
That's your OnlyFans.
That
page,
is,
isn't it?
and I give it out for free. I like genuinely. I know I badmouthed him earlier. His size, I kind of diminished him, trying to big myself up. But I mean, he set the tone in the 70s. Like you said, like he changed the culture around swimming, around sharks, and he was a scary mofo, man. Like and he does like he's capable, and he absolutely eats people. There's no doubt about that. You know what I mean? So I think just for the place in pop culture, I got to give it 5 screams.
That's a great score, Danders. I only brought him down half a scream because I think he didn't really tally up a great kill count before he met his demise. He kind of went down a little bit easy, but you know what?
Yeah.
We'll forgive him.
Is that the bigger villains in they have a bigger body count? Is that one of your?
Not even they've had sex with more people. Michael Myers had a pretty successful college campaign. The chicks in the mental asylum? Are you kidding?
Oh, I thought you were doing Cat in the Hat again.
I just think he went down, not necessarily linked to his kill count as like a metric of that being a great villain, but I just think what he got done before he got taken down was
if they had
minimal.
known how much money there was in sequels, they might have kept him alive at the end and found a way that he escaped and they saved the village for now, but,
well, they actually only did that because the original shark didn't want to continue in the franchise, so they had to
they used their budget with the gap in recording. He got his extra $5 million and he wasn't doing a second more without extra pay.
Dave, what's your scare score on the scale of 1 to 5 screams?
So to your point, Dino, with the 4.5 and dropping it down because he didn't have quite as large a body count, We've already established he was angry at everybody, not just humans. We didn't necessarily do anything to him. We only know the amount of humans and one dog that he killed. We have no idea how many sharks he killed out of pure anger.
Or people in a different place, people in a different country or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, we don't really know the extent of his body count. With that, I can't necessarily bring it down. His iconic role in film in general gives him a five screams for me, 100%. He's iconic. The poster, the music, the actual plot, everything is just.
He's in the Golden Ghoul Club.
The Golden Ghoul Club. And you know what? After listening to your compelling arguments, I'm going to give Bruce a new score of 5 screams.
Perfect score. Perfect score, Bruce.
Perfect score for Bruce. Wow. Bruce, wherever you are, up there in Shark Heaven.
I'm stoked for him.
I hope you're happy. I'm happy for him too.
Hall of Fame.
He'll be delighted.
Yeah. I wonder if he's, even with this score, is he looking back and wishing he did things a little bit differently?
Was it all worth it?
Was it all worth it?
If I'd only used better help.
Better kelp?
Better kelp.
I think there was a joke in there somewhere about talking about his mental health, like a school shooting to like a school of fish. Is that something that could have been?
Yeah, you maybe
a school chewing.
Yeah, school chewing. Better kelp is good. If the kelp were better, he wouldn't have needed the humans as well. Do you know what I mean? So not that sharks eat kelp. I want to make that clear.
Yeah.
I know that.
You do know that. And on that note, we have no more time for today, but I'll leave you with a question. Are you scared? I know I sure am, because that was another horrifying episode of Freak of the Week, both in spooky content and in sloppily conceived segments. I think you would agree that was pretty horrifying. Tune in again next week to hear us dissect another despicable figure from the world of horror. I won't tell you exactly what we're covering, but I'll give you a little hint. He's from Texas, and he committed a chainsaw massacre.
Tell me more.
Until then, everyone, don't split up, don't answer the phone, and please, for the love of God, do not read aloud the Latin from the creepy old book you found in the basement. See you next time. Wow. We are back into We Should Start a Podcast. We just heard my spooky podcast of the week, Freak of the Week. How do we feel, guys?
Very spooked out. Dave, do you want to drop your also in with a fresh board?
My also was so silly. It was just that a group of sharks is not a school. It's a shiver. So
wow,
slightly off.
Wow.
But there's something in there though, isn't there? A shiver of sharks.
Call you on that? Yeah, surely.
Wow,
surely.
There's still something spooky about that. Definitely.
That is really good. I'm so sorry I cut that out, Dave. I know that was very rude, but Danders has approximately 13 minutes to get this done. This is very like Jigsaw-esque. We're like racing against the clock.
Yeah. There isn't a line there for Jigsaw. I mean, obviously, we're going to play a little game, but game's over. But we're going to keep it casual. We're going to cruise to the end. We're not going to rush.
Mm-hmm. And as always, we are going to now critique Freak of the Week using a classic podcast rating system based on 3 criteria. Oh my God! Those criteria are, number 1, the concept, or the general idea of the show, the longevity. Do we think the show has legs or fins to grow?
Nope.
And number 3, pod sauce. This is the je ne sais quoi flair or extra spice to the podcast that makes it a winner. Pod sauce could be literally anything you enjoyed from the pod or something you thought gave the pod some extra flav. This week, the pod sauce segment is sponsored by charcuterie sauce. Okay, charcuterie sauce. This is a new jointly owned celebrity brand brought to you by Jason Statham and the shark from The Meg. Don't know if you knew that they're actually pretty good friends in real
They're
life.
business partners.
They're business partners.
Do you traditionally serve sauce with charcuterie?
You could do a
You
chutney.
can do a chutney, definitely, perhaps some cheese and some
A pesto,
some meat.
perhaps?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So it's charcuterie sauce. Don't question it. That is the Pod Sauce sponsor of the week. So we talked about concept, longevity, and pod sauce there. And after discussing those 3 criteria, we are going to give our final rating of this week's podcast. Will it be a smash hit or should we trash it? Boys, let's talk about concept first. What do you think?
I love the concept, man. Freak of the week. You could. It's just there's a lot of material there, a lot of ammo. Especially because you dropped that disclaimer that we don't condone the use of the word freak. We're being ironic. We're being subtle. You know what I mean? But you got to reference them. What we're referencing is how people reference them and how much of a travesty that is. So I think it's a real championing the little guy. Love it.
We're
shining light on their stories. We're telling their side of the story.
That's it.
Yeah, it was fun. It was well put together. It was a good idea, and the fact that we're jumping between what we see, what we're told in the movies and other literature, versus we're just adding legs and backstories and all these kind of things onto them, which makes the whole thing far more fun to do as well. Jumping between the two kind of
and let's
realities,
be
if
clear,
anything.
if Bruce had legs, it would be game over for everyone.
Yeah.
Let's be very clear on that.
Well, he need a fishbowl on his head as well, like what's that guy called from the Marvel universe? Mysterio.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Was that a fishbowl?
No, not really. I mean, it's like a space helmet or something.
We're going to do a Mysterio pod next week, but until then, let's talk about longevity. Dave, do you think the show has legs / fins to grow? And let's hope the shark doesn't have legs to grow, because we've just discussed how terrifying that would be.
Yeah, like movies and pop culture and real world, there is an infinite number of freaks for this podcast and for the topic of this podcast. So yeah, I feel like there's an infinite amount of things that we could discuss. So yeah,
I like it. Danders, what do you think in terms of longevity?
Yeah, ditto. Legs to grow. You could do 8-legged freaks, many legs, right? You could do, and then you could just do something about, like, I don't know, bearded ladies, human centipedes. You could touch on that again in terms of legs to grow. Lots of space here. I think we've got.
You're stuck on human centipedes.
Yeah, stuck on. So I think
that's very tongue in cheek.
Oh god, that's an awkward one. Definitely, yeah. Room to run with this for sure. There's plenty of longevity.
I love it. And still on you, Danders. What is your choice for pod sauce of the week, sponsored by charcuterie sauce?
My sauce of the week was your conscious segment, man. You got to respect the element at the end where we discuss how we failed the freak and how we as a society should have done something differently to help the freak along and to let them get their best shine. I think that we didn't do Bruce justice, and I thank you for shining light on that. That was the sauce for me.
And I thank you for coming up with the term "help the freak along." I think that could be a number one hit. Yeah. Maybe like a Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak, Silk Sonic could do a "help the freak along." That'd be
it's going to be the next Live Aid.
Dave, what's your pod sauce?
It's funny actually. It somewhat depicts the difference between myself and Alex. My pod sauce was the other segment where we were imagining that Bruce was fighting fucking people in his Street Fighter style fucking rodeo. I think it's funny that was fun to do. It's funny because myself and our friends we do this thing where we'll talk about if I was locked in a room with whatever, who's making it out. One of you or the other person is making it out. Could you make
if
it out?
If I was locked
room?
in a room with Mark, who's making out?
We have 7 minutes.
So yeah, that was that. I found that fun. That was funny.
Very good. I like your pod sauce choices, guys. Okay, we've gone through our 3 criteria, which means it's time for our final rating. Is Freak of the Week a smash hit or should we trash it? Danders, I'm going to you first.
Well, Dino, as you know, I have a hard stop in 7 minutes, so I'm saying it's a smash hit.
We have 7 minutes.
Is that 3 times this episode?
Dave, what's your rating?
Smash hit.
Oh, there it is. I'm going to refrain from doing that one again because it's so loud. We're going to give it a howling smash hit. Wow, guys. Wow. Great ratings, if I say so myself. With that resounding positive response, Freak of the Week is a spooktacular smash hit. But at WSSAP, we like to hedge our bets. So until we can get this bad boy into production, we will continue plotting, pitching, and of course podding until we are certain we have the next pod smosh in our pod smosh on our hands. It's an absolute pod smosh. Any closing remarks?
The next one's going to be a creep. I can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a spook.
Creep of the week.
Creep of the week. It's going to be like a slight variant. Yeah.
Creep of the week. Yeah. And we play Creep by Radiohead.
Oh, nice.
Awesome.
Nice.
Dave.
Don't swim in deep waters.
That's actually a fear of mine. That is a fear. I hate swimming in open water.
Yeah, ominous.
Yeah.
Won't do it. But we don't have time to talk about that because we are at the end of today's episode. You heard it here first, folks. Listen out for Freak of the Week coming soon exclusively to the subaquatic only Charcuterie Sauce podcast app. That's a mouthful. If you think that we should start Freak of the Week, please rate, subscribe, and let us know at WSSAP Official on Instagram and X, formerly known as Twitter. That's WSSAP Official on Instagram and Twitter. We are inches away from a huge idea, and you can tune in again next week to hear us pitch that next hit show. And I honestly think that one is going to be the one to blow up Jaws style. Am I right?
Let's hope not.
Like the canister in his mouth. Imagine if our podcast like combusted. I don't know if that's even possible.
That'd be wild.
Anyways.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how possible that is.
Yeah. Well, we're going to push the boundaries on that. But until then, until next week, everyone out there in pod listening land, keep your ear to the grindstone. And remember what the capitalist Mayor Vaughn told Chief Brody in a shrewd attempt to keep the waters open and tourism profits pumping into Amity Beach that faithful, bloody summer. You yell barracuda, everybody says, huh? What? You yell podcast, we've got a panic on our hands on the 4th of July. See you next time.